I've got to say, I'm loving Peter Schiff's style overall. Like, these white pants are pretty amazing. Like, I don't think I could pull off a pair of white pants like in the way that Peter Schiff's doing it here. He's a pretty cool cat. Welcome back to the portfolio. You can see that we are up a little bit, so $1,151, up about 150 bucks. The initial positions of buying some pepper money and then some NAB started to taper away a little bit over the last few weeks. I haven't been back to make any more purchases for a little bit, but you can see that the market has turned and we are on the way back up. So this is all capital gains. So if you're wondering what I'm doing here, I am investing the spare change that I have at the end of my pay cycle into the stock market, and I'm looking for dividend paying shares such as NAB and PPM or Pepper Money. And for a little while there, Pepper Money was dropping away, but we've had a little bit of a rally, and you can see now I've made $121 in capital gains, which is pretty cool. The main reason why I've had that boost for Pepper Money is because, as you can see by this happy chappy here, Pepper Money shares have popped 25% because the company has announced it's received an indicative non-binding proposal to take it private at $2.60 per share. So someone, an individual, a company, is looking to buy Pepper Money lock, stock and barrel. So if it hits $2.60 on the stock market, all of the shareholders will be bought out, which means I'll be making about 53 cents per share at 250 shares. You can do the math. So that's pretty cool. Also, NAB has gone up quite a bit. If we have a look at NAB over the last however long, so back on about the 17th when I got it at 42 bucks, it has since risen up to 47. So that's gone up quite a bit as well. And I think the main reason that has happened is because the Reserve Bank of Australia has increased interest rates for mortgage holders, which is good news and bad news. If you've got a mortgage, that's not great. But for the shareholders of the big four banks, such as the NAB, I think that might be a good thing, because it basically means the banks are making more money. So, so that's that. So that's where the portfolio is at. I've also been looking at what else I can add to my investment portfolio, and I've been considering whether or not crypto might be something I might get into. So I've been hearing a lot about this Bitcoin thing. So I stumbled across this video about a gentleman called Peter Schiff, who is talking about whether or not Bitcoin is a good investment. This is a podcast called the Iced Coffee Hour. I've never seen it before. I stumbled across this, but we've got a couple of young gentlemen that are probably interested in finance, and they've got their big microphones ready to go, so they're going to be interviewing Peter Schiff. Just keep an eye on this guy's watch. You'll see throughout the video that it's a little bit different to Peter's. And they're going to basically be asking him questions about Bitcoin. I have a feeling that these guys are pro-Bitcoin. I don't know, but just from what I can gather, they might be pro-Bitcoin and they might disagree a little bit with what Peter's got to say. So let's hear their question.
Could Bitcoin threaten gold?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, right, they're saying Bitcoin is digital gold, so why do I need real gold if I can have digital gold? But the problem is it's not digital gold. I mean, that's just BS, right? You can't replace gold with Bitcoin in any of its actual use cases, right? I mean, I'm wearing this watch, right? This watch has gold in it, right? I got this gold bracelet from Monet, right? Monet.com, right? They can't make this bracelet with Bitcoin. You want to make this bracelet, you need gold. Now, you can make one out of silver. If you don't want to have one out of gold, you can use a different metal. But if you want a gold bracelet, you can't use Bitcoin, right? Computer chips. There's gold in there, little bits of gold to conduct electricity. You can't put Bitcoin in the computer chip instead of gold. They use gold in dentistry. They use it in aerospace. There's all sorts of industrial applications. In none of those applications can you substitute Bitcoin, right?
So there you go. So that's the first argument for why Bitcoin is a scam. I'll just open up Peter's eyes. That's one of the reasons why Bitcoin is a scam, because it basically does nothing. It produces nothing, and its only real value is as a store. It's only used as a store of value. So I was interested to hear this argument because I thought that the percentage of gold that was being used for jewellery was quite low, but a very quick bit of research indicates that it's about a third of all gold is being used for jewellery fabrication, which is quite a lot. Also, as Peter Schiff mentioned, it's used in technology. So about 40% of gold is actually used for something and the rest of it is put towards investment. So he makes a pretty good point that gold, we do use it as a store of value, but we do also use it for practical purposes.
The whole thing, is just a giant blockchain letter. People attribute value to Bitcoin that it doesn't have. It has a price. I mean, I don't argue with that. I mean, you can put a price on anything. I mean, look at Peloton. During the pandemic, Peloton shares were 170. Now they're 3. So was Peloton worth $170 a share? Well, that's what the price was because some idiot was willing to buy it at that price.
So the argument here is the classic things are only worth what people are prepared to pay for them. And at the moment, people are prepared to pay an enormous amount of money for a Bitcoin. And it's the ultimate expression of this idea because if a Bitcoin is essentially nothing, then people are prepared to pay an awful lot of money for that nothing.
There's 21 quadrillion Satoshis. I mean, there's enough for everybody in the world to have a few 100,000 Satoshis. And so I don't see where there's a shortage of these things. You don't need a whole Bitcoin, right? You just need a Satoshi. There's no real difference between a Satoshi and a Bitcoin other than the fact that a Bitcoin is a whole bunch of Satoshis. Now, people...
Yeah, so that's another thing that I think is the appeal of Bitcoin is that this sense that it's running out, that they're getting harder to find, and once they're all found, that's it, there's no more, which is fine, but they're also, almost infinitely divisible. So you can take one Bitcoin and divide it up into 100 million, so-called Satoshis and make a Satoshi worth whatever you want. So this one of the motivating factors, I think, for people to buy Bitcoin in the first place is this pressure of it's running out. But as Peter Schiff is mentioning here, that's not necessarily the case. That's just a perception.
People say, well, but an ounce of gold is just a whole bunch of specks of gold. Yes, but you can't do anything with a speck, right? You actually need a specific quantity. You want to make this gold Rolex. I think there's maybe 6 ounces of gold in there. You can't make it with 1 ounce. You need...
Yeah, I love it. He's back on the gold Rolex. I wonder how often he tells people that his Rolex is made out of 6 ounces of gold. So that's a pretty big chunk of gold right there, and he's got that gold bracelet as well. I've got to say, I'm loving Peter Schiff's style overall. Like, these white pants are pretty amazing. Like, I don't think I could pull off a pair of white pants like in the way that Peter Schiff's doing it here. He's a pretty cool cat.
What do you think it would take for Bitcoin to go to $100?
The absence of buying. It doesn't even take a lot of selling. It just takes the absence of buying, right? Because if people decide they don't want to buy Bitcoin anymore, and why do people want Bitcoin? The vast majority of the buying is because people think they're going to make a lot of money buying it, right? They think that the price of Bitcoin is going to go up and they're going to get rich. And then they're going to sell their Bitcoin and buy a car, a boat, a house, take a vacation, buy new clothes. So everybody's buying Bitcoin wants to sell it at some point. They can only sell it if there's somebody else who is equally confident that from that point, the price will go up. So,
yeah, I think that's the crux of the matter, really. So this idea that Bitcoin is superior in some way to other things like fiat currencies because it's on the blockchain, etc. That is not the main. That's not the main motivator for people to buy Bitcoin. Most people are buying Bitcoin to get rich. They're buying Bitcoin in the hope that it will go up in value and they'll be able to sell it later on. So just like any other asset or any other share, but coupled with the fact that it's essentially just a digital product that produces nothing. And if you look at the price of Bitcoin over the last couple of years, so this is 2024, it's $93,000. This is Australian. From there to there, it hasn't really altered in value. I know it's gone up and it's gone back down again, but I have a feeling that anyone that was hoping to, anyone that's made their money in Bitcoin has already invested in it, and in a way the party's over. So, you do get these big jumps and so forth, and it's a very volatile currency. But you'd have to make your money from buying and selling. So if you're buying, you want to buy and hold. Overall, I don't really see a lot of change over the last couple of years, which indicates to me, and again, this is just the layman's perspective, that the majority of people that got it, put the money in early, they got lucky. But it's like the party's over, and the majority of people that are going to buy Bitcoin have already bought Bitcoin. So therefore, we're not going to see this endless, infinite growth up to $1 million a Bitcoin or whatever that people think it's going to reach. I just don't see it happening. And when you see big falls like that, there's a lot of people that have invested late. So the people that have invested here have seen, their money just go down the gurgler, and they will want to get out of that. So when the first people start to sell, then it could be that, like these guys on this podcast are worried about it going to zero. That could be what tips it over, where everybody realizes suddenly the emperor's got no clothes, and this thing is actually, it's worth as much as a bunch of Dutch tulips, basically, and it'll just plummet. So yeah, to wrap it up, I am inclined to agree with Peter Schiff. We might be a pair of boomers that just don't get it. I don't know. You can try to educate me in the comments if you like, but I have a feeling that I won't be investing in Bitcoin anytime soon. That's where I'm at with my investments at the moment, with the portfolio at about $1,150. Pretty soon I'm going to be making another investment. I've located another stock that I'm very interested in that I'm going to make a purchase of. So we'll see this portfolio start to rise in value, hopefully. So that's the video. I hope you enjoyed that, and see you next time.